I used to think love was a rubber band. No matter how far you stretched it, no matter how many times you snapped it would spring back and hold everything together. Caleb made it easy to believe that. He was steady in a way I didn't know how to be. Gentle voice, warm hands, always on time, the kind of man who carried jumper cables in his trunk and granola bars in his backpack, just in case. I was loud and restless. I liked rooms with music and lights and people who laughed at stories told a little bigger than the truth. When we met at a friend's gallery opening, he stood in front of a photograph of a small house washed in morning light and said, "It looks like someone is still inside." Most guys I knew tried too hard to sound interesting. He sounded honest. I teased him for reading feelings in a picture, then stayed there beside him and did the same. He walked me to my car in the cold. When he took my number, he typed it carefully and read it back like a promise. For a long time, we were good. He worked as a physical therapist, teaching people to trust their bodies after surgeries and accidents. I planned events, which meant late nights, loud rooms, and emails that never stopped. On Sundays, we walked by the river with cheap coffee and pointed out dogs we wanted. He learned to make my mother's soup. I learned to set reminders in my phone for things that mattered to him. When we fought, he reached for my hand first. I didn't know that was a rare thing. I treated it like something that would always be there. The first crack showed up on a Thursday after my work party. I wanted eyes on me, so I laughed too hard at a sales guy's jokes and let him spin me during a dumb line dance. I watched Caleb watch me and felt a sharp little thrill, like I had power I didn't deserve. In the car, he said, "That felt like a performance." I shot back, "Maybe if you weren't so quiet, I wouldn't need one." He looked at the road and breathed before he spoke. "Please don't use me like a prop." I cried, said I was sorry, and he forgave me. I filed that away without meaning to. I could go too far, and the rubber band would bounce back. Then came his birthday. He wanted pasta at the tiny place with the red door and a few friends at a small table. I booked a weekend trip with coworkers because the group chat said the rates were too good to pass up. He said okay, and I heard control where there was only hurt. When I came home, the apartment was clean. There was a slice of cake in the fridge with a note in his neat print. "Saved you a piece." I posted a story about balance like I had learned something wise and never paused to ask what the picture really said about me. Forgiveness kept showing up like packages I didn't have to sign for. I teased him for double-checking the stove. I rolled my eyes when he urged me to drink water before a night out. I called his caution boring. He said he liked boring if boring meant safe and true. I told him safe was just another word for small. He looked at me for a long time, not angry, not cold, just sad, and said, "No. Safe is what love feels like when it's real." I shrugged and checked my phone. The last straw should have been the smallest thing. He trained for a charity 10K even though running made his knees ache. He asked if I'd be at the finish. I said yes. The night before, a last-minute rooftop invite popped up. I told myself I could do both. I stayed out too late, had one drink too many, and woke up to my alarm with a head full of metal. I sent him a quick text at mile 2. "Go, babe." And rolled over. He came home with a medal and a quiet face. He didn't scold me. He put the medal on the hook by the door and said he was going to shower. I rehearsed a fast apology and gave it to him like a script when he came out. He hugged me, but it felt like a kind hug you give a stranger who cried on your shoulder, not a hug that pulls you back into the same story. We offered to host Thanksgiving. He made a list on a yellow pad and put stars next to the pies because I said I wanted to bake. The night before, an old friend texted that she was in town. We met for one drink. One turned into 3. I sent Caleb a photo of a pink neon heart and wrote, "Be home soon." I got in after midnight and found him rolling dough alone. He looked at my face for a second, then at the flour on the counter, and said nothing. I washed my hands and pressed the crust while he measured spices. We worked like careful strangers who didn't want to bump into each other. His sister came with her kids. The pies turned out fine. The table was noisy in a good way. We felt like a family, or at least it looked that way in the pictures. After everyone left, we cleaned up. He washed. I dried. I waited for the speech where he would say he couldn't do this anymore, and I would cry, and we would make fresh rules to ignore later. He didn't give a speech. He said he was tired and went to bed. I went to bed angry. He had skipped our ritual of break and repair, as if the fight itself was proof the ending hadn't arrived. I woke to quiet that made my ears ring. His shoes were gone from the mat. His jackets were gone from the hooks. His half of the closet was an empty line of hangers. The chipped mug with the faded mountain was not on the shelf. On the table sat a folded note with my name at the top. In his careful print he had written, "There are no more chances left. Please do not contact me. I need peace.
No anger.
No list."
No plea.
He was just gone. I tried every door I could think of. I texted too much. Nothing came back. His location vanished from my phone. I messaged his sister, and she wrote, "He's safe. Please give him time." I drove to the clinic parking lot and watched patients go in and come out and hated myself for even thinking about walking to the front desk to ask for him. The apartment had a new sound, like a small hum that came from nothing and everywhere at once. For a week I told no one. I pretended he was at a training in another city. I watered the plants he used to water. I took the trash out before the bag split, learned the hard way which cleaner not to use on the stove top, and found out how long dishes can sit in the sink before the kitchen smells like regret. When I finally told my best friend, she brought cookies and listened. I said we drifted, then stopped. She tilted her head and waited. I told her the truth and watched it land in the room like heavy furniture. She said, "You spent his kindness like it refilled itself." I wanted to argue. I didn't. I just nodded and cried into a paper napkin. Life didn't punish me with lightning. It punished me with mirrors. Everywhere I looked I saw the places he had been. The gas tank never dropped below a quarter when he was around. The windshield never stayed streaky. My favorite sweater didn't shrink because he always checked labels. The heavy pots always got put back in the low cabinet because I'm short. None of that is romance. It is care, the kind that doesn't ask to be thanked out loud. It was everywhere when he was here and loud in its absence when he wasn't. I started therapy because my mother told me to and because I couldn't live inside a story where I was always the storm and someone else was always the shelter. The therapist asked me to write down every time I chose attention over care. I filled pages. I brought them in and tried to make a joke about being self-aware now. She didn't laugh. She said, "What do you want to be different next time?" I said, "I want a next time." She said, "That is not an answer." I went home angry, then did the homework she gave me because the quiet in the apartment didn't know what else to do with me. Winter pulled the color out of the city. In March I saw him at the farmer's market when the first strawberries showed up. He stood by the herb stand talking to the older woman who always slips extra basil into your bag if you smile. He looked thinner and lighter, the way people look after they set down something heavy they carried for too long. A woman stood beside him. She wasn't touching him, but she was easy there, like she'd learned the pace of the place and didn't need to perform. I hid behind sunflowers and watched him be okay. He didn't see me.
Or he did and chose not to know me.
Both felt fair. People like me love big endings. We want slammed doors, shouted speeches, dramatic lines we can point to later. He didn't give me any of that. He left like someone walking out of a movie that went on too long. No exit music. No audience. Just a clean decision and the sound of it holding. When friends asked what happened, I said, I kept testing a man who didn't want to take the test, and they stopped asking because there was nothing to argue with. I want to say I changed fast, but that would be another performance. Change came slow, like water carving a groove. I stopped flirting to feel powerful. I stopped turning small annoyances into jokes that cut. I started doing simple things all the way through. Answering messages on time, showing up 5 minutes early, keeping promises even when no one would know if I broke them. It felt plain. It felt new. I learned how to be bored without reaching for someone else's attention to wake me up. I learned to cook the soup he used to make and burned it twice before I got it right. I bought a plant and kept it alive long enough to repot it. None of it fixed what I had done. All of it meant I wasn't the same person who did it. I kept his note in a drawer at first, then hid it in a book because the sight of it made my chest tight. Sometimes I open to that page and look at the sentence about peace. I used to think peace was something a person handed you. Now I think it's something you stop stealing from yourself. I stopped checking his sister's page. I stopped asking mutual friends for updates. One of them told me anyway that he had moved closer to a park with a running trail. She said he seemed happy. I said, good, and meant it, even while a sharp part of me wanted to be the reason. On the anniversary of the day he left, I walked the river path alone. I passed the bench where we used to split a cinnamon roll and talk about dogs we might adopt one day. I sat down and told myself the truth again. He didn't leave because he stopped loving me. He left because he finally loved himself enough to stop being my soft landing. There is a difference, and I was the only one who needed to learn it. If you're reading this and hoping for the part where he comes back, I don't have it. If you're hoping I found someone new who healed me fast and made a neat ending, I don't have that either. I have a smaller, clearer life. I have friends who don't laugh when I turn cruel to sound clever. I have therapy on Thursdays and a grocery list that includes basil because I like how it smells when you tear it. I have a quiet apartment where I don't perform for a crowd that isn't there. Sometimes I dream he knocks on my door holding that chipped mountain mug. In the dream, I say all the right words in the right order, and his shoulders drop, and we both laugh like we got away with something. Then I wake up, and the room is still, and the note is still real. I make coffee and drink it from a plain cup, and try to act like someone who deserves the quiet she has. If there's a moral here, it isn't fancy. Don't spend a good person's forgiveness like it refills itself. Don't call respect boring. Don't mistake patience for permission. When someone tells you what hurts them, believe them the first time, not the last. Love isn't a stage. It's a kitchen at midnight with flour on your hands, a race morning at mile 2, a yellow pad on the fridge with stars by the chores you chose on purpose. I thought he'd forgive me, like always. This time he didn't even say goodbye.